potential career planning, we now are going to have this webinars every Friday or Saturday on different topics we'll be covering, which will be relevant for people while they are transitioning or while they're planning their careers. So overall, the cause of high potential career planning is to help professionals to build their careers and help them to maximize their potential. So we have started this 2 years ago along with me. Manisha is the co-founder. Manisha is XLRI 91 pass out, and she's carrying more than 35 years experience in HR in different sectors: banking, insurance, manufacturing, FMCG. And myself, I have more than 25 years experience in executive search. Before that, 10 years in sales. And we do a lot of work at leadership level, middle management at leadership level, in large groups like the Birla Group, Tata, Adani, RJ Corp, even multinationals like L'Oreal, Castrol, Imami, and those kind of companies. We also work with private equity companies, Blackstone, KKR, and a lot of emerging companies as well. Into such experience has been quite in depth, and our approach always has been long-term relationship with professionals, so that we'll be able to add value to their life as we move forward. So with the understanding of executive search and the kind of challenges and problems professionals go, middle management and senior management professionals go, to address those challenges and problems is what we have started High Potential Career Planning, with an objective to help them navigate their career journeys at different points of time. So that is the whole objective of High Potential Career Planning. We have individual programs, one-on-one customized programs, which are someone who's in current company wanting to go in leadership role, someone who is middle management but wanting to consider options outside the company, someone because of certain reasons has lost a job and wanting to transition and start his journey fresh again. Multiple those kind of individual programs are there. We also do coaching and mentoring at corporate level, and we also have leadership development programs wherein individuals also can nominate one-to-many programs, and corporates also nominate. We recently had done a sales to CEO program also, wherein different FMCG company middle management professionals, there are more people, more than 10 years experience, were nominated. We have good quality, very senior professionals from the industry who are in part of our panel list, people who have been CEOs, MDs of different companies, people who have been functional heads in finance, manufacturing, operations, supply chain, strategy, HR. We are trying to cover the whole gambit. So that is in nutshell about HPCP. We also have Akshay, who has been anchoring and is part of HPCP team. Akshay, before joining HPCP team over a year ago, he was in the education sector. And we also have Raylon, who has joined us recently. So we are expanding our team also. Other than ACH Consultant and HPCP, we have other two verticals, which is Growth Advisory, wherein we advise and consult emerging businesses and work with promoter owners and entrepreneurs to coach and mentor them. Because if you are able to coach and mentor the promoter owners and get their thought process right, most of the things will fall in place post that. So engagement there is much more deeper to work with promoter entrepreneurs. We have mapped all the companies across India, and if Indian economy has to grow from 4 trillion to 10 trillion, then some of these upcoming companies which are 50 crores, 500 crores will have to grow and contribute in the growth of the journey. So their Growth Advisory is working with such emerging companies where the promoters are of a certain values and ethics. So we only associate with companies where we feel the promoters are having right values and ethics, and then we work with them to help them to realize their vision and do all the right things which is required for the business. That is Growth Advisory. And fourth vertical is BJob, which works with the younger talent from campus, identify students with the right attitude, and then help them to get a job. We start grooming them while they're in the colleges and get them summer internship, get placement, and continue to groom them for next 5-6 years. There are experiences less than 1% students have right attitude, and attitude cannot be judged in interviews. So we give them different projects and based on the projects and assignments they do and the commitment and sincerity they show, we engage them. And people with right attitude then we get groomed by industry leaders, give them all the right inputs which are required to build a long-term successful career, and then collaborate with the student and the company to grow their leadership careers. So that's what we do in a nutshell. So let us get on to today's topic. Akshay, can you just share the presentation? And the process which we'll follow today is there are some 10-12 areas which I want to cover. We'll see how much we are able to cover in the budgeted 90 minutes for this discussion. We'll see how many points we can cover. After each and every aspect of it, I would like to take questions, maybe 1-2 questions. If there are more questions, possibly we'll not be able to cover the entire 10-12 aspects which we are wanting to cover today during the day. We also have asked you as to what are your expectations from the webinar, and most of your expectations from we will be addressing in this entire discussion. So as I said, we'll go one by one, and after one point, if there are people having questions, I'll give 1 or 2 questions and then move on to the next topic. Yeah. So networking with executive search firms for leadership growth. That's the topic which we are talking about in depth and in detail today. I'm sure everybody understands what is executive search. Now, why is it important to network with search firms? Now, within recruitment, there are different kinds of firms. There are firms which only handle middle management and senior management positions. There are firms which handle middle management and junior positions. There are firms which handle mass recruitments at shop floor level or third-party level also. Here we are going to focus on organizations and firms which handle middle management and senior management recruitments for the companies. Now, the way the whole approach and the recruitment works is all companies obviously need people at middle management and senior management. Very good companies very rarely will hire talent from outside at middle management and senior management. They believe in grooming internal talent. The best of the companies not necessarily will hire from the market at middle management and senior management. Like companies like Nestle, P&G in consumer business, So some of these companies may not hire talent at middle management and senior management because they believe in hiring talent at entry level and grooming them. And whenever there's an opportunity, they would like to prefer internal talent. Now, but there are a large number of companies who are open to internal talent growth also, and who are open to take talent from outside also. So 60-70% of the companies will fall in this bracket, who promote internal talent also and who take talent from outside also. There are 20-30% companies who don't have internal talent. Whenever there is a vacancy, they typically go out and hire talent from outside. Most of the times these companies have their own internal challenges, and culturally they might not be the best companies. Like organizations who don't believe in promoting their own internal talent, obviously their thought process is a certain way, right? So now in recruitment, what happens is, and typically recruitment is forte of HR, and HR teams, all the businesses today are having cost pressures. So earlier, most of the recruitment at middle and senior management used to happen through recruitment firms. Now, with advent of LinkedIn and things like that and the cost pressures, companies are using different methodologies. First and foremost is the referrals. People whom they know. For example, if there's a regional head, a DGM level role in a finance or any other function, companies would like to, hiring manager first would like to see if he knows people from his own network. And if he knows people from his own network, he would like to hire a known person rather than an unknown person. When I say his own network, he would like to hire a person whom he knows well. Not somebody has shared his profile on LinkedIn, but someone with whom he has worked. One of his friends has referred somebody whom he knows. So through referral, hiring manager first would like to see if he can fill the vacancy through his own references. If that is not happening, then companies today have internal referral schemes also. Not all of them, but there are a good number of companies who have internal referral schemes wherein if there's a vacancy, if there are people if there are 100 people in the organization, and if if these people know at middle management and senior management that they can bring in their friends or known people, companies encourage them to refer people for the requirements in the company. So that is referral scheme basically. Then when it comes to HR also nowadays, a good number of companies have Naukri portal access and also LinkedIn access. So HR also on their own, because if they have to hire from recruitment firms, search firms, then obviously they have to pay them their service fees. So HR obviously is always having a budget every year. Like for example, a marketing or a supply chain or a manufacturing people, they will have their budget. Similarly, HR also will have a budget on recruitment, and they always would like to stay within the budget. And always CEOs and promoter owners and businesses would push HR to reduce their recruitment hiring budget, because they would always push them to hire people through their own internal referral, through reference, through LinkedIn, through Naukri, and bring down their hiring costs. So HR will always have that pressure. Now, if after finishing all the avenues, if the company is not getting the right person, then companies will go to the recruitment search firms. And at middle management, I have seen 50 to 60% positions HR people are able to close internally. Only 40% vacancies, 40-50% vacancies goes to the external companies. And in cases where there's a specific requirement, where their possibility of them getting internal referral is difficult, then obviously those vacancies, they don't wait for internal referral and things like that. They will immediately give it to the search firms. Typical routine vacancies, they would like to first exhaust all the internal sources and then give it to the external sources. Now, when the assignment is given to the external sources, then executive search firms come into play. For professionals, it is extremely important to be networking with search firms, because these are the organizations who will bring them vacancies. This is one of the avenues. This is one of the avenues for professionals to get into a job. While even professionals have many more other avenues for networking, and we have discussed broadly last week also we had a webinar, and in that we broadly discussed different aspects and reasons for networking for a professional to get into different jobs. How can you use networking to get a good job and transition in a good role? So one of the basic reasons why professionals need to network with search firms is because they bring in opportunities for them, and it's an important avenue for them to look at possible opportunities outside their current job. It also helps professionals to understand normally what are the kind of vacancies are in the market, what are the kind of salary levels. At times you might not consider a job change, but it is always good to talk to them and understand what is the role they have. Then you can encourage the conversation and talk about what is happening in which industry. You can also use search firms to enhance your knowledge on different industries, different sectors, what kind of jobs are happening, what kind of roles are happening, what is happening on salary increments, which sectors are likely to do well, which sectors are hiring, which sectors are not hiring. So from a job market perspective, if you have to enhance your knowledge, search firms, because they are day in and day out doing the same thing, it is very easy for them to share knowledge, because they are deep into it. Whereas a professional, when he is working in an organization, his understanding is not as wide and is very myopic from that angle. But for a professional, it's important to have an understanding of what is happening in the job market. And that will, if he is aware about what is happening in the job market, it will help him to plan his career properly. That is the second point. So these are the two main points why HR professionals should network with search organizations or recruitment firms. Is anybody having any question or doubt here?
No, it's clear.
It's clear. Okay, great. Now, it's also very important for people to understand how search firms operate. What is the modus operandi of these search firms? As I said, after exhausting all the options, organizations will share their mandate to the external people. In some cases, the HR team will share the mandate only to one organization. In some cases, they might share it to 2-3 organizations also. In some cases, organization has given exclusive mandate and a returnership mandate. When I say returnership, it is like the research firms get paid money, some amount of it in advance, some amount at different execution points, and final amount at the end. So mandates which when they are given to search firms which are on returnership, they are exclusive. In some cases, it might be exclusive, that might not be returnership. In good number of cases, it's multiple mandates. Now, if you look at middle management mandates, not necessarily go on returnership or exclusivity, because firms which work on returnership and exclusivity, their commercials are high, and HR organizations, HR teams and organizations, since there's a cost pressure, they will give these mandates to organizations who are open to work without giving exclusivity, because there's a time pressure also. They want to get the person fast, so they will try and give it to 2-3 people, so that at least they'll be able to move fast. To ensure the speed, they give it to 2-3 organizations. My experience is when organizations give it to 2-3 organizations, actually the quality goes down and not necessarily the speed is achieved. So when the company is giving a mandate to an organization, there are some commercial terms which are already agreed. There are agreements. Companies expect when the mandate is given, when they have exhausted all the internal options, when they are giving a mandate, they try and give a job description. Not all companies give job description. I'm telling you, I have seen 80-90% of the cases there's no job description. What HR organizations expect is you are associated with the organization for a long time, you understand the organization quite well. So you are expected to know the organization well, the search firm is expected to know the organization well, and then they are expected to represent. Some firms will push the organization to give a JD. Some firms will not push and they'll start work based on their understanding of the organization. So good number of times when the search organization is representing the organization and there's no JD, it is their understanding of the organization and not exactly what the organization is. So it is good for professionals to ask for a JD. It is always good. Good number of times, even if the organization is not giving JD, search organizations will prepare a JD and share it with the individual. But the individuals should ask them, is it the JD given by the organization? You have to get it. Now, when the JD is given, then obviously it is all specified and spelled out. When the JD is not given, HR organizations, in both cases, even if the JD is given or not given, certain 6-7 parameters HR organizations clearly specify what age bracket they want, what qualification they want, what kind of a companies the person should have worked, which location the person is required to move to, what is the salary range. So they define 6-7 parameters which are very strict, which the organization doesn't want the search firm to deviate from. They will say clearly share a CVs only which are matching these profiles. If profiles are not matching these parameters, please don't share the CVs. And search organization, a recruitment firm's performance is determined by the quality of profiles they share and the closures they are able to get with the organization. If there's a search organization which is working with them on 4-5 mandates and there are no closures, they will stop giving them mandates. So all recruitment firms, their search organizations will ensure that they follow the dictate, otherwise their stakes are very high. They might lose a client and they might lose a mandate. So they will always try and go by what organization has specified to them. They will very rarely, unless until the search organization, the recruitment organization is having good rapport with the top management and he can influence them. Only in those cases they can take specific cases and recommend some specific cases. Otherwise, 99.9% will just follow the diktat because they don't want to antagonize the organization and they want to ensure that their performance is well rated. So when the mandate is given, the search organizations will follow those 6-7 parameters. Middle management, then they'll, based on the parameters, they'll talk to candidates and share the profiles. When they are talking to the candidates, not necessarily they are going in depth. They know that this candidate matches 7 parameters. They will not see the cultural fitment part. They will not get into detailed assessment.
So, as a candidate, what can we do to probably do some research at our end?
So that will come in later slides.
Okay.
I will have to. So right now I'm just trying to educate you on how the firms operate and you, so that you are well prepared and you know the background. And in this webinar, obviously with the limited time of 1 hour 15 minutes or 1 hour 30 minutes, we can cover some things, we cannot cover some things. But obviously, yes. So I am right now, we'll go by this. And if some of these questions are not answered, but this question of yours will get answered in further slides. So when search organizations are talking to candidates, good number of times I have seen that candidates don't even remember the name of the recruitment firm who has approached them, because the conversation has not been at depth. It has been quite transactional, and when the CV gets shared, based on the exact parameter, if it is matching, it gets shortlisted. And the CV gets shortlisted. On CV basis, HR will share 10 CVs to the line manager. Line manager will shortlist 4. Line manager is shortlisting 4. He's using those 7-8 parameters, but broadly these CVs on CV basis more or less look same. Now, given the way these HR organizations operate, because they will only stick to the mandate, and if your profile is not matching the mandate, then it will not get considered. And hence, I mean, you have to be sensitized to this. And I'll come back to you as we go along. You might see that you are applying to multiple locations, hundreds of places, and nobody's even bothering to reply to your mail. They are picking your call also multiple times, because the HR person is having a mandate to close. He's working on 5-6 mandates. He will only connect with people who are matching the mandate. He feels talking to other people who are not matching the profile will not help him to score points with the client, and it will be waste of time. And he also has to achieve his target of revenue and billing and everything. So he would like to conserve his energy and put his energy only in areas where there are profiles which are matching. And hence, if you see, if your profile is matching the role which is handling, the search guy will call you 10 times in a day. But if your profile is not matching to the mandates which is handling, he will not even respond to SMSs, WhatsApp, emails. He will not acknowledge your calls also. So that's Akshay, I think you're moving so fast. I don't know whether you're wanting to indicate to me that I should move fast, which is fine, I think. So organizational structures of search firms.
I pressed the button by mistake.
Okay. You can go to the second slide. Actually, you were on the second slide. We were on how to. So search firms typically will go by the mandate given by the client, and they will prepare a list of candidates, talk to them, and present to the clients. At senior leadership level, what happens is organizations expect them to give a list of candidates who will match the requirement. When the list of the candidates is shared with the client will then shortlist 50. If there's a list of 50 people, client will shortlist 20, and they will say you speak to this 20 and understand who are interested and present. Of those 20, then after discussion with candidates, then they present 5-6 candidates. That's how search firms operate, and they will strictly go by what the client dictate and brief is. We can go to the next slide. Now, within organizational structures of search firms is how is this organization structure? Like, for example, there's HR, talent acquisition head, talent recruitment manager from the organization side, CHRO. For middle management and senior management, typically it's talent acquisition head, CHRO who's engaged. And people who from a recruitment firm side, there's a senior person at a partner level, yeah, relationship manager, yeah, general manager, who will interact and interface with the HR team of the organization. He's a relationship and account manager, and he will interface with the organization. Now, below him, he will have his team, which will have research people, which will have people who do the initial screening and calling to the people. And if he's not a partner, then he'll report to the partner. And if he's a partner, then as a partner, he will have a team of 8 to 12 people in most of the cases, wherein 3-4 people are the ones who will talk to people, assess the people, and assess people he'll share with the partner, and partner then will further present to the HR organization, the CHRO or talent acquisition. And the research team will do the sifting and understand who are the people who are matching as per the company requirement, and then give that data to people who are supposed to talk to people and do assessment. That is how most of the organizations are structured in search firms. Now, what happens is different organizations also have different structures. Some of them are structured functionally, like there will be a functional practice. One team will only look at finance roles, one team will look at only manufacturing roles, one team will. So some organizations are structured function-wise, some organizations are structured sector-wise. One will only look at FMCG, one will look at pharma, one will look at e-commerce, and so that is how different organizations are structured. Large executive search firms, most of the large executive search firms typically are structured sector-wise, and most of the large firms typically work on retained search. Mid search firms typically are doing either retained search or contingent search. What contingent search means is they are not necessarily paid in advance, but on closures, and the recruitment organization gets paid. So on organization structure, this is how they are structured. The reward structures of the recruitment professionals typically, the fixed compensation of theirs is typically 50-60%, 70%. Variable is quite high because, in these organizations, people want to reward people who are performing. So that's how most of the organizations' revenue structure, the incentive structure and fixed structure is there. Good number of organizations nowadays have given flexibility to people to work from anywhere, right? So that's how the organization search firms are structured. You can go to the next slide, Akshay. This I have already told you. Now in search firms, there are global firms and Indian firms. MNCs typically will only go with global firms because if they have tie-ups in their headquarters, or senior management and middle management, they will only go with global firms, like say a Korn Ferry, a Spencer Stuart, a Egon Zehnder. Those kind of firms they'll only go because they're having global tabs, and they will, for senior leadership mandate, they will only go through that. Indian firms typically will be working with MNCs also and Indian organizations also, but Indian firms very rarely will be able to work at leadership level in MNCs because since those companies will only work with global firms or leadership mandates. So Indian firms obviously work with leadership mandates in Indian companies. Also, Indian firms with promoter-led organizations because there's also cost pressure and things like that. And so with promoter-led organizations, Indian organizations are deeply enrooted, and Indian organizations can influence promoters because while there's a mandate which has to be looked at, but if the firm is having a good relationship with the stakeholders, senior leadership stakeholders, they can influence their thinking because the promoters and senior leadership also is keen to look at inputs from these firms. They also want to understand what is happening in the market. Like for example, since I am in executive search, I meet a lot of promoter owners of mid-size and large companies, and they're keen to understand in the market what is happening, how is the market changing. These firms are also very open to meet candidates with open mind. There might not be patience, but if there are good candidates, they are very happy to meet candidates, and positions get created if there are good professionals. But it's also equally important to understand these firms will recommend candidates only there they also feel that the candidate will be culturally fit, because they have relationship with the stakeholders. They would not like to recommend candidates who are culturally not fit, because their credibility with promoter owners is largely going to increase or decrease based on the kind of candidates, not only they give candidates, but after joining, how they perform. So that's on search, global and Indian firms, and some broad specs on that. We can go to the next slide. Now, how to identify the right search firms? This is very important, because number of search firms. What is your guess in India? How many search firms will be there? Can anybody just give a wild guess? How many search firms will be there?
Maybe
Every
thousands.
retired person seems to become an executive search person nowadays. I'm wondering it will be easily into 500.
Yeah. Any other guesses? So, as someone just said, every other person getting into executive search is what you can see, right? But I'll tell you, because in this space, entry barriers are almost zero. There's no entry barrier. Someone who's having good network can get into recruitment and can start his business. So you will see huge number of organizations. There are some individuals who have some relationship with some good companies, and they do their own business. There are some global firms which do business internationally. Now the global firms numbers will be maybe 25, 30. Yeah, maybe at this 40. Mid-size firms like ABC and those kind of firms will be maybe another 100, 150. Not to the size of ABC, but maybe people who are, a number of people they are employing is more than 50, 60. Those kind of firms will be at least close to 200. Firms which engage 10 to 50 people will be at least 500, 600 is what my guess. And people who work as individuals will be at least 1,000 or more than 1,000. So that it's a huge number. So while one has to network with search firms and executive search organizations, it's important to understand whom to network and whom not to network. So for that to understand, I think it's also very important for an individual to understand what kind of sectors I want to go and what kind of organizations I want to go. That topic is altogether different for an individual to arrive at what organizations and what sectors I should go. But ideally, a good person, if he has to really transition in a good role and have a successful career in the organization which is going, in his journey of finding a right job, he should define target organizations, target roles, and target sectors. It can be 3 sectors, 30 organizations, and maybe 30 roles. Now, once he's defined that, then he should deep dive and understand as to if these 30 roles, which are the search firms are likely to handle those 30 roles. And then filter out those firms and then engage with those kind of firms. Now, question is, how do you do that? If there are this kind of numbers, how do you really do that? For an individual, there will be always a limitation. But if you really have very deep relationships with some search organizations, then you can ask some of those people if you have some friends in that. But otherwise, one can use LinkedIn or Naukri. And let me tell you, on LinkedIn and Naukri also, when organizations post openings, good number of times those posts are also not existing. At times, these organizations post positions just to collect database for future requirement also. At times, the position is not defined, but the organization has asked them to do some mapping and get some interest of some people. So not necessarily the position which is posted on Naukri or LinkedIn is actually active position or live position. But on LinkedIn today, you will find companies also put their openings. So if those companies which you have target roles and target companies, then one can go to the HR. Today we are not going to talk about HR, but today we are talking about search organizations. So I think for an individual to then identify right search firms is a huge challenge. So what does individual do? because he can't understand even if I know target companies, where I want to go, where I don't want to go. Most of the times, 99% of the times, even individuals don't plan target organizations and target roles. When somebody is looking for change, he is applying to roles. For example, if there's a known company, decent sized company, and if a search organization is approaching, he will say, yes, I'm open. I have also seen when there are 10 people getting called and they are working in the organizations, professionals actually feel elated when they get a call from search organization, which is good thing to do. But it is also important when the search organization is presenting you a role, is this right time for me to consider the role? Should I change or not is first question. And if I'm wanting to change, I have made up that mind. But the organization, search organization, whatever roles they are presenting, is it the right role for me? Is the organization having the right culture or not? If I go there, will I be able to do well in that organization or not? Those kind of deep questions are required to be asked. That kind of seriousness and effort is not seen happening, is what my observation in the last 25 years. If the organization is known, large enough, sector is the sector where you want to go, people will say, yes, I'm open to explore, I'm open. So I think in this space, professionals need to do a lot of work and deep diving in terms of identifying the right search firms. So we can go to the on this. Is anybody having any question? Is there any question?
One quick clarification here. You spoke about be clear which sector, which organization, which role. Okay. Any way you would suggest us that could help us to make this kind of a decision?
So this, I'll tell you, in this webinar will not be able to cover, because see, for one to understand target organizations and target roles, one needs to, it's a very deep dive. I have seen, I'll tell you, unfortunately, people who do extremely well are the ones who are absolutely clear about what kind of career they want to work, what kind of organizations they want to work. So they will plan their moves effectively. They will do research of the organizations. I have seen many professionals at mid and senior management also, after joining the company in 2-3 months, realize this was a mistake. It happens quite often. So if one has to really do a good career planning and a career strategy, it is a science and art. And around that is the reason why we have established high potential career plan. So it is required, but with that, and as you're right, that clarity, then also one needs to have clarity on which search firms I should go to, and that again is an art. But I'm just right now covering broad headings and trying to enhance your understanding. Otherwise, if you get into one topic in this detail, then rest everything will be left,
Totally appreciate. Yeah, but thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. We can go to the next slide. Now it's the right. See, search firm is one thing, right? Search firm, but in the right search firm, it is also very important to understand who is that search firm. As I told you, the mandate is given to the partner. Below partner, there are a few managers, and below manager, there are some research people. But who is the right person who will be able to influence my candidature is very important to understand. Otherwise, if you connect with research guy, is basically doing the basic groundwork and sifting the data and presenting it to it. Connecting with him might not be of much help. There might be some boutique firm who's working with Indian organizations, and that person has the ability to influence the promoters, as I told you. Now that firm, if you feel that the person is having ability to influence, there might not be I also told you, there are a good number of times there are no mandates, but some people, when they interact with the candidate and they think this is a very good candidate for a particular company and he can culturally fit very well in that organization, they can actually talk to the promoter owners, senior management, and saying this is a good candidate whom I know and you should meet him. And good number of cases, not always, but I've seen cases where it gets converted into a job. So what kind of firm, whom to network is very important, and that again will flow from target organization, target companies. And in search firms, in executive search firms, ideally partners, people who are interacting with the client are the ones you should build network with, because they are the ones who are exposed to the client, they are the ones who will understand what kind of mandates are there. They will be able to influence the HR team and hiring manager also at times. Not too much, but at least some bit of influence they can do. So someone who's interfacing with the client, like even when in executive search, when people are approaching you, I think one or two simple questions which you can ask is, whom are you dealing with the company? In that company, when you are hiring for this company, if the person is dealing directly with the person, he'll be able to tell you the name. If he's not telling you the name, it also means that he's dealing with his senior is dealing with that person. So then in that case, it's better for you to speak to the senior person who's directly dealing with the client and the right person. Because networking is important, but networking with right people is important, because everybody's time is limited, and one has to network with right people in such organizations. Now, small organizations, as I said, people have ability to influence, they can create positions. Even mid-sized organizations, some people, if the relationship with that person is very long, the person can influence. The other thing which you have to keep in mind, even in such organizations, in your organization, people keep on moving. Even in such organizations, people keep on moving. Iteration rates they also have, and they are higher than corporates, because from such organizations, people want to move to corporate side. Some of them would like to branch out and start on their own. So recruitment firms, MNCs, large firms, their iteration rates will be 20-25%. At middle management, senior management पे थोड़ा कम रहेगा, but फिर भी रहेगा. But they also have, and small firms, so iteration rates are very high. So while you know the person, he is moving from a firm to firm. So you have to be aware and sensitive about it. If you are building, if the same person is moving from one firm to another firm and you have good relationship, he'll remember you. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. If he joins a firm which is again dealing with similar clients, then he can be advantage. But if he's joining someone who is working in FMCG but moves to a firm which is a BFSI, and he has moved, you have the network relationship, but now that he has moved in BFSI, and if your target sector is FMCG, it might not be a firm. Yeah, we can move to the next slide. Now, strategy for networking, I'm just talking about broad principles. As I told you, these people, 99.9% of the people behave very, very transactional. I'm telling you, even in our firm, we are trying to instill this practice, saying we should respond each and every person who calls us, writes to us. But it is extremely, extremely difficult. We at our end actually have engaged some people who will only respond to mails. And 95% of the people who reach out to search firms, their profiles are not matching to the exact roles they are handling. And I mean, people are looking up to these people to help, but these people are not responding. And there's a huge frustration in minds of professionals. So here, once you have in this market, and once you've understood this market, one of the key things is you should not get frustrated, because it is not fault of that individual. So you should be empathetic about it and appreciate that this is how this market operates, because you cannot change how the market operates. It's better to understand the market and then try and see how you can network. You can send LinkedIn invites, LinkedIn connections. Look at their, if you want to say build a good network with 20 such professionals, look at their date of birth, look at their academic qualifications, where they have done say graduation degree or MBA degree. If you get to understand the guy, because if you look at the LinkedIn profile, if he has done schooling in Muzaffarpur, if he has done college also in Muzaffarpur, that means he's more or less born and brought up in that part of the job. Now, if you want to build a network and connection, anything related to Muzaffarpur, for example, if there's some interesting article, you can just WhatsApp him. If you know his date of birth, you can just wish him. How do you really remain top of mind and build a good connection with him is very, very important. For that, if you want to network with these 20 people, try and understand these people. And once you understand, don't try and intrude them, but as a practice, I'm telling you, it is good to not only build network when you have a need. Like, you are a good number of times, professionals also go and start talking to such professionals when they have a need to get a job. So they will also reciprocate the same thing. since your profile is not matching the jobs they are handling, they might not respond. But if you are investing not too much time, but over a period of years you have a building relationship and you have a need, those people are likely to respond. Once in a 2-3 months, if you are able to share something, yeah, once in a 6 months also, if you are able to share something, these people they'll remember you. For example, I mean, because I'm in executive search, I know some very smart and intelligent people, how they are in touch with me. Some of them will send me some very good articles. They have read some articles somewhere, and you people always read some good articles somewhere, right? So you can always share that article link to the individual saying, I'm just sort of sharing with you, how are you doing? Some of them will share Harvard Business ka online reviews. So something interesting which they are coming across, which can be relevant to a search guy also, they will share. Now these kind of informal ways will help you to build a network and connection. And whenever you get a chance, now what happens is when you do this kind of things, even search professionals require people who can help them. Because when they are working on a mandate, good number of times those profiles are not available yet, they don't have contact details, and you must have seen that people ask you for references. So when they are asking for references, another very important thing which you should do is, if somebody is, when he is asking for reference, that means he is needing help. And when he is needing help, if you help him, at least respond to him, saying that I will not be able to help you, but in future let us be in touch. Any mandates which you have, please keep on sharing with me. I'll try and help you as much as possible. And whenever there's a possibility for you to help, you can share numbers, because in your circle also at times there are good number of people who are looking for change, they're not happy, and they have lost job and things like that. Do share references for people, because you have helped them when they need help. So when you need help, they'll also try and acknowledge that help. That will help you to build a relationship and connect and network with some of these firms. And it's a long-term relationship. And I have, as I said, these search firms get you opportunities, right? When they get you opportunities, it's important to be in good books of them, to network with them. And I have also seen cases in my own thing, there people were looking for change, and I have taken an extra interest because those people have been nice to me. It's a human tendency, right? If somebody is nice to you, you'll also go an extra mile. But if somebody has not, unknown person, then it is difficult. You will try and treat that person as one more candidate. So it's important that you network, but network in the right manner. And there has to be strategy around it. We can go to the next slide. Is anybody having any question? As I said, I would like to take some questions alongside also. Okay. Now, building long-term relationships, I did mention about what is the way to go about building long-term relationship. Birthdays. I have seen people, when I meet people, at times people ask about my children. Because they also want, when you're meeting a search professional, don't only keep it to the role which they're handling, but even the search professional is wanting to understand the candidate, and the search professional, when he's assessing the candidate, he will talk about his functional expertise, but he'll also try and look about his family, his children, his upbringing, his schooling, his attitude, his behavior. So the individual is trying to assess, and he's asking him questions. Alongside, as a candidate, also you should ask and understand the search professional also more. Where is he from? What is his family background? What are his interests? What is his passion? And if you are able to make note of some of his interests, some of his passion, and anything which you come across, if you start sharing to him, you will build a good relationship with him. Take a long-term view. Take a view that when these people are reaching out to me for some help, let me go out and help them, because in future, whenever I need help, they might help. So that is what will help you to build a long-term relationship. You can go to the next slide. See, what is important is to be on top of mind for a search, because there are so many people call search professionals, right? And if you are on top of mind, and a search professional, let me tell you, can have 400-500 people on their top of mind. Everybody will not be on top of mind. So if you are on top of mind, whenever there is a role which is coming to matching your requirement, they will immediately call you. They will not even wait for research team and assessment team to assess and then come your profile. So you have a huge advantage there by being on top of mind, because you have interacted with him multiple times. He knows you well, you know him well. You can also ask him very, very tough and difficult questions which are very important for a professional. You can ask him, यार मतलब क्या लगता है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मेरे लिए सही है, आपको लगता है मैं कल्चर के यहाँ पे फिट हो जाऊंगा. You can ask these kind of questions only if you have a deep relationship. And the person also will ask in a very transparent and honest way only if you have deep relationship. If you don't have deep relationship, he knows he has to close the position. He will say, no, everything is good. Because search professionals, good number of times, are trying to sell a role to the individual and individual to the organization. 99.9% of the organizations are very transactional. Even the big MNCs I have seen are extremely transactional. Their candidate's interest is not on top of their mind. I am 100% sure about this. They see that there's a mandate and there's a revenue for them to be generated. I have to close that mandate and get my money. After joining, if the candidate is happy, is the decision right for his career, will he culturally fit or not, all those things, they are secondary for them. But if you have a deep relationship with the individual, it helps you to be on top of mind, it helps you to get a lot of insights. He will help you to get into right organization. Not always people will be transparent, but at least in some cases we can expect people to be transparent. Hence, it is important to build relationship, and also important to being on top of mind, because whenever there's a mandate, they will reach out to you. Because you have to understand, while you are one professional, there are at least few hundred professionals who can match the requirement of the search organization. If you are on top of mind, you get chance to be there in the first few people who are recommended by them to the client, and then hence the chance of interview and then the process. Not necessarily how to convert that and all other things is a different science, but being top of mind at least helps you to get recommendation from the search organization. Because for the same mandate, as you go up, middle management above, there are multiple people who are going for the same position. So hence being on top of mind will always help. Any question? You can, Akshay, I hope you have not jumped the slide, but because I'm not humping out, yeah, we can go to the next slide. Yeah. Now this is very, very important. How to manage yourself while networking with search. As I said, for a good number of professionals, whenever I speak, they say it's a frustrating experience. Now, while it's a frustrating experience, it's a known devil to be managed. So, when it's a known devil, you should be mentally ready that this thing is going to behave in a certain way, and I have to ensure that I don't get frustrated, and I'll not have any frustration that will peep into my interactions and my discussions, and I'll not give up. Because as I told you, being connected with 10 or 15 search professionals, if you have a good network, I'm telling you, it will help immensely for you to take your career in the direction you want. For example, I have seen people, good number of times, we don't work with organizations, but good people will call me and say, Sandeep, this is the organization I'm getting this for, this is the role. Do you think it's the right organization? Do you think it is the right role for me? And being on this side of the table, we would have interacted with some professionals from that organization, and we'll have reasonably good understanding of the culture of the organization, and we'll give him a transparent feedback. Should he consider or should he not consider? So while it's a difficult thing, while it's a frustrating thing, it's extremely critical and crucial, and hence we should not ignore and not get frustrated. It's like in your team also you have few people who are not easy to handle, and you have to invest more time, and you do that because his performance is important for your performance, right? So similarly, building network with executive search firms is extremely important for you to get external opportunities, and they bringing you good opportunities and they helping you multiple times. At times, you have a boss whom you don't like. Similarly, you might have some executive search professionals whom you may not like, but being on the wrong side for them is not going to help you anyways. So the mindset which you have to have is very optimistic and approach in a manner, how do I really build a good relationship with a tough customer? Like whenever you are doing work, at times you have to influence people, senior management, junior management, your team members, and you use all your influencing skills while doing that. So you should think through, empathize with these people, that knowing that these people will behave like this only, but despite that, how do I remain myself, keep myself calm and strike a good rapport with these people and influence these people, has to be the mindset. It is easy to say these guys don't respond and they just give up, but then that also obviously will limit yourself, and obviously that's not the right thing to do. So one has to really introspect, reflect, and build a mindset, certain kind of a mindset, with tenacity, with flexibility, with empathy and persuasiveness while you're building your network with search firms. It's extremely crucial and important. You can't say that no, I'll do away with it. I have seen good professionals doing that and they benefiting immensely from it. As I said, there are no opportunities at times, but if I have a good professional who is at times in a problem, and it can happen today to anybody. Organizations are downsizing for business reasons, startups are not getting funding, organizations are closing one division. Even good professionals are in a situation where they have to immediately get into a job. Now, if you have some good people whom you have network, you can sound off to them saying that this is the situation. And if you have good relationship, these people can recommend you strongly and can create opportunities for you. So it's important that you network and have that patience to network. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. I think we have finished. Yeah, well within the time, 55 minutes. I thought we have finished. So if there are any questions, happy to take questions, and 15-20 minutes we can spend on questions.
May I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
First and foremost, thank you so much for a very open, honest, transparent discussion on how the other side works. Because I think many of our professionals, we are always like, what is happening? I'm putting my resume, nothing comes out. I'm talking to people, nothing comes out.
Right.
I think really, really appreciate the transparency and the intent you had when you were sharing. So thank you so much to you and High Potential for that. See, one very specific question is, for many of us who have been in Indian firms, okay? Mm-hmm. Many international firms, we may not be south of many international firms. Even in many cases, what I've seen with the HULs, P&G, Schneider Electric of the world, some roles are posted all of a sudden, and maybe 3 days later, there is a rejection mail that comes to you. And you know what the hell has even happened.
Right.
In case you want to move into some of the top organizations where, in many cases, like you said, they may not be keen on hiring from outside, but taking for junior and then growing within inside, and which are also the most south of it, to be very honest. Right. How do you prepare yourself or position yourself for roles within these kind of organizations? HUL, P&G, and Goldman Sachs.
I'm able to see only your initials. I don't know your first name, so if you can
call me RK, if that's fine with you.
Okay, so RK, I'll tell you. Managing your career is an art, and one of the reasons why we have started High Potential Career Planning is with that basic theme. So for you, I will respond to you in as much as possible, but it's if you have to say, being visible in the right organization to the right people is again important. For example, if you want to get into a particular organization, what is important to understand in that organization, what kind of roles I can fit into, what kind of roles I can't fit into. And if I have to look at certain roles, who are the right people whom I should be visible and network. And networking doesn't mean you send a LinkedIn invite and then you say, I'm looking for a change. That is not networking. Then, because in good organizations at senior leadership level, many people keep on sharing LinkedIn invites, right? Mm-hmm. So in these organizations also, it's important to build right network. In fact, we have something called helping you to build your own private goal. a good professional will build a private board who will guide him and help him in his career. And this private board will be in multiple organizations, not necessarily one organization. When I say private board, very high potential leaders with whom you are visible, with whom you can bounce off, with whom you can talk. And building that kind of networking requires investment and time and effort and a strategy around it. Just to summarize.
Okay, this is helpful. I'll hold for others now. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi Sandeep, my name is Manish. I have a question.
Yeah, Manish, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you for this session. Very insightful and very helpful. The question that I want to ask is, it's a very candid question. Do feel free to answer if you think it's relevant. Is there a business side to HPCP? And if there is, then how does one go about engaging and taking it forward? I said it'll be candid. If you think relevant,
Yeah, I'm really glad that this session is helping all you guys, and it's a pleasure to understand that. So HPCP, Manish, we have established with an objective, with a commercial objective. It's a business organization. Okay. See, today people, you see that they're doing executive MBAs and they spend 8, 10, 12, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, right? And they feel that I will do an MBA and I'll be able to put in my CV and that will help you to get entry and a job. Because after 15, 20 years, I mean, you have enough and more experience, which will help you. So executive, and today, let me tell you, the earnings of all the MBA schools, top schools, is much more from these executive MBAs than their flagship programs. Because most of it they are doing online. The number of people they enroll is crazy, right? And the fees are also crazy. But professionals feel I will have that stamp and I'll become an alumni and that will help. And fact is that HR organizations, all the organizations, they look at people with full-time degree from that college and not an executive. That doesn't help. After 15, 20 years experience, what people, even if the person doesn't have a premier school degree, what they are keen to look at, what is that he has done in 15, 20 years? What is his contribution? So now coming back to this, as I said, the reason why we have established HPCP is because we feel professionals with good capability, best quality, qualifications, best attitude, but because the way the search and the recruitment industry operates, they are not able to navigate. It is almost like dating. Like individual is trying to sell himself and the search organizations are trying to sell a candidate.
Correct.
While people get jobs, good number of times they are not happy because post-marriage there's a actual realization. So HPCP is having multiple courses depending on the need of the individual. For example, the individual wants to build his own career in his own organization. Now, if he has to build his leadership skills, then we have very senior leaders, CEOs, MDs who are coach and mentors who will coach them based on their experience and learning. And these are very reputed guys, and people can choose and select the mentors. And the whole philosophy of me building this is that we should add value to life of people. People should get manifold ROI as against the investment which they have made. And if they are not getting the ROI, we should be happy giving them their money back.
Got it. So how does one get details of what are the specific input areas for a 15-20 year professional that HPCP offers?
So you can write to Akshay. Akshay's mail ID and WhatsApp numbers you will have. And they will take you through. They will share all the details.
Yeah, Manish, I'll get in touch with you and we can have a discussion on it later.
Akshay, it would be great if you share it with me as well, or maybe just put it on the chat box itself.
Yeah, you can. Akshay, you can put your mail ID and mobile number and everything on chat box.
Yeah.
That'll be helpful. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Now, Sandeep, the reason why I wanted to ask was I'm being, although this is a private conversation, but I'm sure it doesn't matter. I've done reasonably well in my career, but unfortunately, what's around the corner is not something that all of us can see.
Yeah. So I'll tell you.
I've hit a bump. So I'm just trying to figure out how do I recoup myself and how do I get out of this situation, whether it is through upskilling or whether it is talking to industry experts like you. So these are the kind of things that I'm exploring so that I'm able to get over this forcible break that I have.
Yeah, I'll tell you in future, for benefit of all, I'm telling you, downsizing, losing jobs is going to be a norm. Because with technology, business models are changing, requirements of
Correct.
organizations are changing, because organizations obviously will look at what is right for the business and shareholders, right?
Correct.
So, for no fault of professionals, there are possibilities, and these possibilities only will increase, that people might lose jobs. And there are a lot of professionals, if they are first 15-20 years they have done well, obviously they're good. So if they have faced one bump, doesn't mean they can't correct and resurrect again and reboot again. So
Absolutely.
So the whole idea is to help people who are in tough situation, difficult situation, tight situation, and handhold and help them to transition successfully.
Thank you, Sandeep. I don't want to take too much time. We have
I would
quite a
encourage
people.
other people to ask if there are some more questions for benefit of all.
Yes, Sandeep, hi, this is Vivek. Few questions. So one is like, someone said that very, very detailed discussions about, how these search firms work. So my question is, if someone has changed their industry, and the person has gone into the startup now, and the startup is, somehow is not working that well. So how to put it across, and, going back to your, original industry where you have worked over last so many years, how the people in organizations see startup as an experience, and how to put it across in front of what you have learned. And although ultimately you have to tell that whatever you have started, it has not worked that well, so how to put it across?
Vivek, I'll tell you, see, one of the things which is very, very important for all of us to understand is, because all of you would have interviewed people, right? As I told you, HR people will give you 10 profiles, you will shortlist 4. When you meet 4 people, all 4 cut very different impressions. But on the CV, almost all of them will look the same, right? Now, how do you navigate and answer some of these questions is what determines how you create an impression. With the search firm, with the HR, business. For example, one way to look at it, you joined a startup and it does not work. That is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it, what I have learned in startup, I could have never learned in an established organization. And the skill set which I have got, I am now an entrepreneur and more better professional versus what I was earlier. That's the other way to look at it.
But that comes when you are having a, let's say a first round of discussion. But when it comes to the filtration process,
Exactly. Now the filtration process that is where the executive search relationships come. That is where you, despite. Now, how do you speak to people when you have lost a job? Also matters when you go and meet the people. But at a filter level, you are getting the foot in the door, and that is why I said search organization relationships are important.
Understood. Thanks, Sandeep.
And even for the search organization professional, for example, 99% again, search professionals are not confident about presenting a candidate who is not in a job. If you have a relationship, then you have to influence him to get you across.
Understood. Thanks, Sandeep.
Yeah.
Hi Sandeep, this is Sumit here.
Yeah, Sumit, go ahead, please.
Sandeep, two questions. I'll just I'll slice down it. First was you told about the global firms and the domestic firms which have been hired for the leadership roles, the mid-leadership roles. So, can you just give a brief guideline what to do with the global firms and the domestic firms? Because global firms will be engaged with the global MNCs which are there. So, how to network with those guys? That's the first one. Second is on the domestic front. Domestic guys, what's the way? How to search them, or which are the organizations should we target across if I'm looking for the certain top 30 companies? So what's the way to do that in terms of the searching those guys who is the right person in those companies?
Now this is, again, that's what I'm saying. One of the reasons why we have started this is in itself is a big topic, but I'll just give you broad specs. This will come from the target organizations which you are looking at and target sectors. Now in this target organization, target sectors, if there are global firms who are doing work, those firms you will have to understand and network with. India, and let me tell you, this is my view, while professionals, when they are changing for jobs, and good number of people who have worked with MNCs have very high bias, thinking that I want to go in MNC. And because we have seen many MNCs and many Indian organizations, I can tell you with guarantee that there are so many MNCs which are actually worse than Indian organizations. And so there's no right or wrong. What is important is to understand the organization and culture, and then see whether you can fit into those organizations and cultures or not. So when it comes to Indian firms, there are a lot of Indian firms who do many-fold better job than the global firms. Like in our case, ECH, I can tell you proudly that with large groups where retained companies, retained global firms have not been able to close mandates, we have closed those mandates by just giving 2 candidates and both of them getting selected. So because what is happening today is the executive search firms also don't invest time in building relationships and contacts and understanding the candidates. They are also transactional. Without understanding the candidates, they are presenting based on the criteria given, and that is why it happens. So to answer your question, how do you really list down the firms, Indian, global? I think if you reach out to us, we can guide you separately, but it will require longer discussion, because as I said, number of firms are very large, and then from them to pick and choose, how to pick and choose about it. But we do help professionals based on their requirement and target organization and target sectors. We share them the list of search firms whom they should network. We also, not only that, we also help them to understand who are the right people in those organizations whom they should network. We share the details.
Thanks, Sandeep. Sandeep, if I'm okay, I can go to the second question also.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Second was, Sandeep, one more thing, as a recruiter perspective, if a candidate, like most of the case I have seen the candidates with the like-to-like industry or the similar profile which people looks for. So is there a way out to stand out when you have a industry being different, or the work skill set being different, but a mid-level person can apply for those jobs? How to stand out in those areas, because recruiters ask for the similar profile only, exactly and maybe the part of a mandate or the easy way out for them, but how to stand out in these cases?
So Sumit, I'll answer you, and after that we'll take one more last question, and after that, because it's already 7:45. So let me tell you, while search firms have stereotype thinking 100%. So unless until you have deep relationship, you will not be able to influence them. 100% you will not be able to influence them. So that piece, I think, as I said, you should build a private board. When you are building a private board, that also is an art and science. If you know very senior people, 20 people, like if you are a CEO and MD of an organization, and if you are wanting to hire mid-management or senior management professionals, you obviously, as I said, 60-70% mandates get close to referrals. So if you have to change a sector and change a function also, at time I've seen people changing functions also. Like for example, there's a stereotype thinking in FMCG, only marketing guys can become CEOs. Okay, and we actually have started a program, Sales to CEO program recently. High Potential Career Planning has started a Sales to CEO program, and I personally feel sales guys are equally equipped to become CEOs as compared to marketing guys. In fact, they handle much larger teams, and their people skills are much better, and so on and so forth. So therein, if you have to change a sector, you will require someone who will recommend you and stand for you, either a professional, senior professional who's part of your board, some organization which you know very well, and that organization then can influence other organization. But that will flow from your target organization and target roles. You should be very clear, why do I want to change sector, why do I want to change function? And that will come from your understanding your own self, what are your ambitions, what are your aspirations in life. And let me tell you, for professionals, only 10% of your earnings come in your first 25 years of your career. People start at 2, 3, 4 lakhs. And then at 25 years, they're at 1.5 or 1.75 package, for example, hypothetically. In 25 years, they would have earned 5-6 crores. But if you are at a 1.75 or 1.5 crore package, in last 10 years, if you grow at 10% CAGR, you can earn 30 crores, right? So 90% of earnings for a professional come in last 10 years. And today, nobody is retiring at 60. People continue till 75, 80 if they plan properly. You are in a good shape and good health if you plan things properly. So I think it's important to plan properly and if you realize, no, in this sector, for example, some sectors are dying sectors, and you can foresee that happening. So you should start preparing that 2 years in advance and get into sectors which are relevant. You will have to build that skill, and for that then you have to connect with right people who can help you to transition. But search firms, organizations, to summarize, will not be able to do that if one has to change the sector. Very rarely, very rarely. If you have deep relationship and if the organization is having that influence, then they will be able to do that. We have done it in our case. We have done it in quite a few cases.
Sandeep, Prashant this side.
One more last question, please, because I think in interest of everybody's time.
Right, Sandeep, Prashant this side. So there's a lot of
Prashant, just before that, what I would request, if people have questions, they can put it in the chat box. We'll try and send a mail to those people, respectively. Yeah, Prashant, please go ahead.
Very informative. Thanks, Sandeep. So, Sandeep, there is a lot of talk about fractional roles as well, especially in the leadership domain. So, what is the view of the search firm fraternity and the rest of the industry on this? Is it acceptable? Is it gaining more clout, or how does it feel?
So, Prashant, this is going to be a trend in future. Unfortunately, search firms are still not accepting it. But while that will happen, the individual will have to play a major role, because fractional CEO or CMO roles will not necessarily come through search organizations. So the individual will have to really think of, for example, if you are at a particular career point and you aim, and as I already said, people are not retiring at 60. Now at 55, if you say, I want to have another extended 10-15 years of career extended, then next 5 years, actually, you should start preparing for and saying, if I want to become a fractional CMO or fractional CFO or whatever, you can identify which are the likely organizations in future which I want to engage with, and in next 4-5 years before you retire, you start doing some work with them. If somebody at the age of 50 says, before my retirement age also I want to get into this thing, then one has to understand, before I get into that, which organizations I want to do this kind of work, where will I get this kind of work, and start engaging informally 2-3-4 years in advance, so that your transition becomes smooth. There has to be a strategy. When I say, career is a serious, I'm telling you, all of you guys put enough time and burn night oil when it comes to the business plan and a business strategy. I very rarely find professionals putting any time on their career plan and career strategy. Hardly any time.
Correct.
So then obviously, if there's no clarity and strategy, then you know what happens in the business, right? So on that note, I would like to close. Thank you very much, all of you, being here on Saturday evening. We will be happy to connect with you or put your questions in chat box. We'll be happy to answer them. We are here to build lifelong relationships with people. We are wanting people to do well, because that's what gives me as an individual maximum happiness. And if you look at all the 4 verticals which we have, whether it is high potential career planning, SCH, growth advisory, B-Job, we are saying, let us engage with people with right values and create value for them. And if we create value for customers and people, then obviously business will follow. Thank you very much once again, and I'm really glad that helped all of you. We'll be happy to, as I said, we'll be having such sessions every Friday, Saturday. Thank you once again. Wish you all the best, and have a good weekend and a good Sunday. Enjoy and relax.